Okay, great. So we're recording now. So can we start by having everyone agree that we can share this video publicly with a thumbs up? Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Okay, great, great. So first of all, just thank you guys for all of your, dedication and energy of what we're doing with the team right now. Super exciting time. Tonight is going to be really like a monumental conversation that we're going to have, because it's really a culmination of a lot of the shifting that's been happening and how we're, kind of representing us to the world in a very different way. So I went really deep today into diving into like the nitty-gritty details to really understand like how we're structuring everything and how we're communicating everything. So we're going to get into all of that tonight. It's going to be, we're basically going to start a big brainstorming session that's going to start now, and it's going to continue all the way to next week, to next Monday. But there is going to be an acceleration before Thanksgiving because, you'll see, I'm going to show you some conversations I've had with some of the new leadership council members. And I'm contacting a lot of them now, which is driving a lot of the, the messaging and the communication. So let's start by showing you guys where we're at in those communications and give you a sense of, how we're presenting the project, the ways that we talked about last week with, Uniting for Action being both a solutions organization, and the biggest solution, that we're putting forth right now is the collective solutions framework, the whole framework that gives us the ability to develop solutions, right, at scale for different challenges. So we'll get into that part of it. And then the membership organization, the people, the businesses, the nonprofits that are showing up to say, we want to be a part of a collective solution. We want to pledge into a pool of collective resources and go through this whole framework to develop, solutions. We want to be a part of that collective. So again, we'll get into all of that. Let me start sharing. Any questions or comments or anything from you guys before I start sharing and we dive in? Okay, great. So let me start sharing. We have a new Teams page, which I'm going to show you guys in a moment, which is really exciting. Big development there. So, so this is the new Leadership Council page that I've redeveloped in the last couple of days. So let me share in the chat. Oops. So here's the link again, and we'll put it into the agenda. Who's doing the minutes tonight? Do we have somebody on minutes?
Normally it's Cassidy.
I was just gonna say, normally it's Cassidy, right? So maybe somebody can start until Cassidy comes. You can do it, Katie? Okay, great. Thank you. That's great. And we'll confirm, let's remember to confirm with Cassidy when she shows up. Okay, great. So yeah, please add that link. And so let me show you these couple of short videos to give you a sense again of what the conversations are looking like, and where people are at in terms of their response. And these are like two probably good models, for us. And we'll get into all the details, but let's just go ahead and watch. So again, it's just a matter of being the model, right? Like people being out there saying, I found this thing, I'm coming together with all these others, we're creating a new reality together. Yes. This reality that we're creating, we're not trying to make it perfect. What we're trying to do is give our best effort all the time within a framework that we're constantly perfecting, that we're creating an opportunity for the best solutions to bubble up and be informed by best practices across the expertise of our entire society all the time for everything we're doing. What a concept, right? So, for those of us that get that and want to lead that concept into the world, not that this is already the perfect solution, but that we're working constantly on bringing forth our best as a society, constantly tweaking what that looks like, but all of us being committed to that ideal. And as we hold that vibration, that's very different than the vibration that we're all kind of stuck in right now, right? We've got this status quo that I've defined that cannot get us to scale because of the underlying infrastructure. So that's this choice. Now here's this other choice of those of us over here that are holding this vibration for this new reality that we're choosing to demonstrate to people how effective it can be when any of us, and it doesn't have to be everyone all at once, it could be a super small percentage of the population, right? Like 0.001% of the population is going to be thousands and tens of thousands of people, right? That are coming together in this energy and creating results at scale that start to blow away anything that we've done before, right? So it's going to be a very quick snowball cycle that everybody that is sitting outside of this collective process, one by one, are going to be seeing the results that the collective is creating and saying, I want to be a part of that. Those people are creating the world that I want to live in. I want to help create the world I want to live. You get what I'm saying? So
100%.
Very quickly, you know, those of us that are leading the way are going to completely lead society into a completely new reality, because our current reality cannot compete in any way with this new reality that those of us that are committed to creating are creating together.
Beautiful. Bravo! Well, I raised my hand for the $300. I think it's fabulous. I think that it's no coincidence. I know Mike, you know, those people I mentioned, and we will collaborate and work from there.
So I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts from seeing that. What do you think? Thank you for the thumbs up, Maria. I definitely want to hear you guys' comments. So all of you will comment. Let me hear what you guys think.
I think it was very nice. She was like very excited. She clearly saw that it was like a great idea. So yeah, it was a very nice conversation.
Great, great. Thank you for saying that, Mariana. So Tatiana says, I could feel the passion and it was great that she was on board. Cool. Maria, Katie, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true what Tatiana is saying, that now she's engaged. Like the other last week, we saw the video, now we can see the difference, and that's really important for like those of like the people that are going to see these type of videos. So yeah, I'm really glad. It's really cool.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, Cassidy, glad you could get here.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer crashed like right before the meeting, so I was scrambling, but I give permission to share this publicly.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. Awesome. We just watched a video that you'll get to watch later of a meeting with a new leadership council member. Katie is about to, everybody's giving comments and Katie's about to give hers, and then I'll continue with the thought.
Yeah, I definitely think that the content is good again. It's a good, succinct way to kind of get people raring to go. It's a great call to action. So content's good, the visuals are good. It's a good video.
Okay, cool, cool. Thank you guys for that feedback. That's really awesome. And yeah, I appreciate hearing what you guys think about it. One of the things that's so awesome for me about this, and we talked about it a little bit the other day, Kat, who I was talking with, was a referral from a friend of mine, Satya, who I had connected with. Satya's like, oh, you need to connect with Kat. It's funny, she just sent, Kat just sent me a WhatsApp message right now saying, when should we connect and talk more? That's really funny. So Satya said, you need to connect with Kat. That was the very first conversation I had with Kat. We had a 2-hour conversation about all of this. And you saw, you know, that was somewhere around like an hour and a half in was that part. And then we kept going. You know, she brought up all these different things. She's now looking at who, you know, to refer us to in terms of other potential leadership council members. And she and I are having other conversations about other aspects. And we're starting to get that virality where we're just at the very beginning. But part of it too is that we still don't even have all of our automated stuff, right? And we still don't have most of the information on the website. I'm going to get into all of that with you guys tonight. But the Rolling Stone is rolling. Yes, it is. It's starting to roll for sure. Yeah, let me show you just a couple other quick clips. These aren't as long, but it'll again give you some more context here. So this is just like 30 seconds.
10 years ago, everyone was saying education, 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 or 20 years ago. But this seems like a contained system. No, open system. Well, it's contained and open. That's what's brilliant about it, right?
It's a framework.
It's a framework, a thought leadership framework that would allow the best ideas to emerge at the lowest cost in the fastest amount of time.
I like that. That's really great.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
So again, you guys can see again where Kat is, you know, being one of these people that's, you know, thought about these things. It's totally tuned in, you know, to what we're talking about, what we're doing, as is Rico, who I won't get into all the context now because we have so much to go over, but listen to what Rico has to say.
I just want to say that if it takes $300 for us to build an impartial platform of information where it's not censored, it's not biased, then that's a good $300 to spend in my lifetime.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So just have that come in, and you know, I'm here, I've been there. So let's work together. You know, I'm available. So you know, this is for the future of humanity.
Yes, it is. I appreciate you holding that energy, bro. I'm really honored and so grateful that you're being a part of this.
So, you know, it's interesting to see, you know, different people's takes and, you know, what the important aspect is to them. Different people I've talked to have mentioned other different things. So now, you know, a lot of this is spurred by, I read all of your job postings and job descriptions over the weekend. And first of all, let me thank each of you for, you know, doing it directly, getting your team involved. Yes, let's definitely put some claps together for all the job descriptions that all the teams put together on time, and really great examples. And it was awesome. It was exactly what we needed. And as I went through them all, it kept having me think, you know, like, okay, some of what's, hold on just one second. I keep having to adjust my fan. Hopefully I've got it right now. I was reading the different job descriptions and I was thinking, okay, so, you know, yes, that's a lot of like what we were doing, and that one's like, you know, a lot of what we're thinking about. And I was like, how do they write the job descriptions for like what our project is in a way that I haven't even totally defined myself? You know, that's what I was kind of realizing today, is that I'm still in the process of really trying to like define. I think I did a pretty good job today. So I'm going to share with you guys, you know, all that I came up with. But I was feeling like I needed to do that first so I could come back to you guys and say, here is all that we haven't been specifying yet, right? That we're about to specify right now. And then we can talk about, you know, how to not only do the job postings, but, you know, communicate everything, figure out the teams, all of that. Because the way that I broke it down, and we kind of talked about this before, but this is a little bit more specific, is that I see interns operating in 3 different like realms or lanes. I'm still not sure the terminology to use, but the first one is as a user of the system, like we've talked about, right? That they are using the framework to do their own special project or work with others in the same channel to work together to create some kind of project, whatever that looks like, right? That you know, probably is going to involve some reaching out to experts, right? So like identifying experts, reaching out to experts, but they can choose whether it's something specific in their community, like they're going to take on, you know, producing some piece of information for some, you know, community group or nonprofit that they want to work with in their local area, right? It could be that specialized that somebody is doing something along those lines. Or again, that person is taking on the research part and somebody else is taking on the outreach part and somebody else is taking on the production part, and they're all working together in some channel that they've all found each other together on, right? So, you know, again, all of that, like we've talked about, are users of the system that are operating outside of the realm of Uniting for Action, because Uniting for Action is not, it's funny, I keep saying we're not a user of the system. We're not a user of the system in terms of, you know, choosing issues and organizing around issues, right? We're focusing on the framework and we're focusing on solutions, developing the solutions that are being proposed for these different areas. So the students can operate in their, you know, project, their individual project or collection with others, and they're being a user of the system. The second way, the second lane, is where they're sitting on the teams and using their experience in as a user of the system and the ways they're using it, and also looking out and observing other users and essentially being like the experts of the implementation of the framework within whatever realm they're operating in. So let's say production, for example, for a moment, right? So for production is essentially defining, you know, again, what needs a project would have, a channel would have in order to develop content, in order to develop video content, right? Video content, social media content. Like, we're helping to define what best practices are by, you know, having all of these different data points or models of implementations of the framework. Does that make sense? So like each different project is like a different implementation of the framework, right? And then each different project is kind of defining what their production needs are, right? Like, we want to produce these videos or we want to do these social media posts, and they're, you know, defining what the needs are, and then they're looking for the resources to show up to fill those needs, right? If we look back at the framework again, so the framework, let's just walk ourselves through the framework as a reminder, and then we'll jump back into what we were just talking about. So, and I've simplified it a bit. So first, it's the issues, right? And the issues, we're focusing on, like, you know, big issues, global issues, that sort of thing. But the framework really allows you to choose like any issue, any project, any situation that you have, this framework will work for, essentially, right? So we're modeling it with these big issues, but somebody could choose an issue like, you know, dealing with some health issue in some specific community, you know, in a certain city, right? And it's going to still, you're going to still use the framework to be able to create the solution. So it's a scalable framework for wherever you're doing. We're focusing on issues right now. And again, all of the issues and all of the everything, you know, gets channeled essentially within the channels, right? So any questions from anybody or comments about the issues part of the framework? Okay, hold on just one moment. Okay. Then we're pooling the resources that are showing up at that channel, essentially, right? The nonprofits, the foundations, the corporations, the individuals, all the entities that want to pledge some support to that particular issue, right? Whether that support is financial or like for nonprofits, organizational, you know, hours that people are, you know, donating, whatever that looks like. That's the resource pool that the experts then have to work with, right? You have the issue experts that are the ones that have been studying these issues for years and, you know, doing research on these issues and publishing papers and publishing books, and all of the issue experts that really know what the best practices are for that particular issue, and also can conceptualize what should be done to develop solutions at scale. Part of the realization for me in going through this is that the solutions at scale that are going to start to be available have never actually been implemented at that scale in our society. So actually, this is going to be new types of solutions that are going to be developed when, you know, we're looking at a national solution with all these billions of dollars pledged to this particular solution, now something that can be developed at scale that hasn't been created before. So there is not just like ideas from like past studies and all of that, but really forward looking, like what could we do if we could get everybody on the same page kind of deal, right? And so any questions about that on the experts or the resources? Okay. And then we have the strategy experts, right? Because the issue experts are experts around the issue, but not necessarily experts around creating solutions or creating strategies to implement solutions, right? There's specialized people that are strategy experts, right? And those strategy experts are the ones that are essentially, you know, working with the experts hand in hand, the issue experts, to come up with collective strategic solutions, right? The solutions that are take advantage of the collection of resources that have been pledged. And the, you know, once the solutions have been determined, then it goes into the project management phase, right? And the project management phase is essentially where the strategy itself is now being implemented, probably from a whole different series of projects, right? So let's say you have a strategy that has like, you know, 5 big areas, and then in each of those 5 areas, then there's, you know, 10 sub areas, and then under those, like there's big chunks when you're looking at a big multi-year national multi-billion-dollar strategy, right? There's gonna be all kinds of pieces of it. And that's where essentially you have these different existing organizations plugging themselves in to be managers of one particular project. Like this nonprofit is going to take on this particular project and they're going to manage all of that because they can. And this other nonprofit that's like bigger already is going to like manage these other nonprofits to develop this whole type of solution. You get what I'm saying? Like we're developing like a whole, you know, project management infrastructure from the existing infrastructure that's out there, right? Essentially with like a bidding situation, right? It's like different nonprofits will bid to have different roles within this whole solution. Does that make sense? So in a way, you know, it's kind of like when they're competing for grant money. Essentially, we're going to be like a big grantor, right? With this whole collective pool of resources is going to be like the grant pool. And then all of these different entities that are pledging to the solution are now like competing for the grant, essentially, right? To be a part of the solution with whatever resources they can bring to the table. And then that goes all the way down, that project management, you know, goes from those big organizations down to, you know, their staff, down to, you know, volunteers and people, you know, online that are doing all the nano actions, right? And so that's where, you know, all the nano actions are feeding into these, organizations that are at an organized place that can deal with, collecting and doing something with these nano actions, right? And then there's another piece that I've just added that I think is important for us to add, which is the outreach part, because basically, all of the committed resources and entities that are doing all of this solution development are then going to want to share, what they're doing with the world. They're going to want to really, there's like 3 pieces. I'm trying to make this like super tight, but I'll show you the other 3 right now. And this is even, I think Comcast is actually using these. I saw these the other day on one of their commercials. I think it's good. Inform, educate, inspire. So basically, outreach is going to provide the materials when all of this solution stuff is happening and good things are happening. All the entities involved in developing these solutions are going to want to inform the rest of the world about, the results that are being created, educate, people around this particular issue that they all care about, and inspire, those that aren't being a part of this particular solution to come and join, the collective that's addressing this issue, right? So essentially, again, that's going to be like that's going to be a part of all of these solutions. Is they're all going to keep growing over time, right? As they, as they create results, and then they share those results and inspire others to want to, be a part of it to create results. So that's essentially the whole framework in a nutshell. So any questions or comments about the framework here? Do you guys feel that it's clear and that it's straightforward? And do you guys see any places that it can be adjusted to be improved in any way? No, it's like perfect. I wouldn't go that far, but we're working on it. We're getting there. I think it's a good start. So, okay. So now, having reviewed the framework, now let me jump back into where we were talking about. Let me kind of pull up some notes I have. We'll really have to add it to the agenda. I didn't really get a chance to put it into the agenda before tonight, so we'll add it all in. My hand agenda for the moment. Okay. Let me share this. Okay, so yeah, this is one thing I want you guys to ask a lot of questions for tonight and throughout the whole process. And for all of our content, especially as this, video is going to be watched by others that maybe don't have all the background that you guys have, maybe they're only going to see this video, that any, clarifications or details that you think ought to be added to help people understand the context is important as well. So I'm just going to rely on you guys to make sure that all of you feel like absolutely you understand, exactly what I'm saying, and that, the whole concept of all the ways I'm putting all the pieces together, because we're putting a lot of different pieces together tonight. So sound good? Okay, cool. Thank you guys for that. Okay, so, what are our objectives for tonight in particular? So part of what I want to do is I want to figure out what goes on the website and goes on the team pages. So let me go back and show you guys the team page that we'll talk about a little bit that I got started for us now. Oops, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, great. So
okay, I just need to move you guys so I can see everything. Okay, so this is the first version of our team page. And what I want to do is I want to have you guys help me evolve this team page as well as the individual team pages. So the first thing that we have is we have not only the video of our most recent meeting, but this is actually a playlist. So when we click on it, it shows us all of our meetings for all the past weeks. So I went ahead and set up our playlists over the weekend. So now we have playlists just to show you guys. Oh, signed in, the wrong person. Okay, so now we have all of these playlists on YouTube. So we've got a playlist for every different team, and then that has all of our videos in order from the beginning of October, although we started agreeing to make them public from the beginning of September. So but those videos are all in our Vaccine Considerations Project channel. So I actually have to upload them all to the Uniting for Action channel so that we can put them into the playlist and they can all be in one place here. So that's some work I have to do over Thanksgiving. But basically, so we've got all the playlists, including the meetings all, which just has all of them. So when we go to meetings all, that's a place that somebody just can go back through time and find every single meeting, that we've had in the all list. So this is great, right? In terms of our organization now, in terms of people being able to find us. So now what that, gives us, as you can see, is it gives us the ability to have all of the different teams have their own page and their own playlist. So these are like the previews. So you get to the business team page. From here, you've got the preview of the most recent video, and the whole playlist is right here as well. And then you've got the bullet points. And so this also are things that we can update now. These are the old bullet points. So we have, but basically you see the rough, outline. Here we have, the links to the actual team pages. So you can so they're linked here, they're linked here. We go ahead and we click on any one of them. They're not built out now, but it takes us to that page and then set up with the playlist. And then we still have to update all of that. So, this is part of what I want to work out with you guys, is I want each of you and your teams to figure out what should be on each of these pages, right? And so that's what there is for us to talk about a little bit in the meeting tonight, but also with your teams in particular, to figure out, okay, what's going to go on these pages. And then that's kind of a carryover from what we've been talking about in terms of what goes on the individual students' pages, right? In terms of showing your work and that sort of thing. So that's what I want to have some kind of models of by tomorrow night. I want to have at least some of you have, something to show. I'll work with you between now and tomorrow to create like a sample page with some of your stuff that we're showing, and basically creating at least one or two student pages that, are you guys, and we're showing, some of the things that you guys have to show. And then similarly, with some of your feedback from tonight, we'll build out maybe one of the team pages to have it be a little bit more showing, like showing the members on the team, showing our past meetings, showing examples of the different work, or again, whatever it is that we feel like people should be seeing right now. Our agendas, our minutes, it's like, how are we going to display all of that? Is it just going to be like minutes for the meeting with a link, or are we going to, put it up as a PDF, or, all of those sorts of things are what there is for us to figure out essentially. So that's one big piece right now. Again, not that we need to figure it all out tonight, but we do need to figure it all out essentially by next week. And we want to have all of this built out and live by our showcase, of course. So we want to have it which is the 2nd, a week from Thursday, just to remind you guys. So, you know, we have next Tuesday to kind of preview everything. Ideally, we're going to have, by next Tuesday, we're going to have it all, you know, there on the site, you know, all of our pages built out, all of the team pages, all of our individual pages. So again, it's a bit from where we are, but hopefully everyone, you know, on all the teams have been getting all their stuff together, and we'll have it all together by tomorrow night. So it's really going to be more a matter of formatting, right? That's been the intention. So does that sound reasonable to you guys in terms of getting the pages together, the student pages and the team pages by next Tuesday? Great. I should say I shouldn't say next Tuesday, by next week's team meetings, which will include Monday's meeting for recruitment, and whenever we have our meeting, Tatiana, next week, and then for each of the combined teams, you know, by Tuesday, each of the teams in the combined team by Tuesday. So is that clear to everybody? Okay, good. Okay, so any questions or any comments about any of that? You guys excited to see that we're actually got to the point where we're having team pages, and it's all like, we've been talking about team pages for a long time, right? So I'm glad we're here, and we have, you know, the playlists and everything. I mean, this is where, you know, we've been talking about what we've been doing as a team, but again, it's been kind of invisible to the whole world up until now, right? Now with this team page, with all the playlists, with all the team pages, now like anybody can show up at our website and say, wow, look at all of these students that have been doing all of these things, right? So feel good? You guys happy about that? Excited? Good. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, cool. So let me dive back in. I'm going to dive right into the kind of the depth of the pieces I was going into before. Let me pull it up. Any questions or any comments about anything about any of this? Nope. Okay. All right, so let me share again this kind of document that I was working on today. Okay. So figure out what goes on the website, what goes on the team pages. Also, what there is for us to figure out is what's going to get shared in presentations to career services offices. So this is a big part of it, because Cassidy, Tatiana, Rebe have been doing a really great job in terms of, you know, having us all ready to connect with these career services offices. We've got the email template, we've got all the job postings from everybody. And so I've still been imagining, so how do we describe this to these career services offices? You know, what do we show them on the website? What do we send them? What is it that we're telling them we're doing? So again, part of what I'm going to be showing you guys are answers to that. You know, I've been kind of developing what is the answer to all of this stuff and what's going to go in the job posting. So we got to figure out what goes on the website, what's going to be shared in presentations to career services offices, what's going to go in our job postings. Anything else that you guys can think of that are priorities right now in terms of what we need to figure out? Nope. Okay, if you come up with anything, let me know. So, so what are we doing as an organization? This is what I mentioned before. We're facilitating collective strategic solutions. That's kind of what's in our mission. That's kind of what covers what we're doing, right? We're facilitating collective strategic solutions. So how are we doing that? We're doing that by being a solutions developer ourselves. And so one, you know, the big solution that we're putting out in front is the collective solutions framework. But this is where we're telling people, you know, within the idea of the framework has different solutions competing against each other to be the ones that are selected by those in the resource pool that are pledging their support behind whatever solutions they are behind, right? Does everybody remember that part of it? How it works, how solutions are chosen, is that individuals, corporation, whoever it is, says, you know, of you know, whatever I've pledged for the month, you know, 100% of what I pledged for the month, I would put behind this one solution. I would only put 50% of my monthly pledge to this other solution. I wouldn't pledge anything to this solution. I don't like this solution. I don't like this one. I wouldn't give anything. I would give 100% to this one. So it's when all the ones that are invested say what solutions they would get behind, as all these choices are out there, then the ones that get fully funded, essentially the ones that get fully pledged and can be executed by a collective that's ready to execute them, those essentially are the winners, right? And there'll probably be like 2 to 4 winners that will then compete against each other to keep, you know, always having a better solution emerging. So all that I'm describing in that whole framework, what I just described is a prospective solution, right? Somebody else might have a better idea about how to do that, right? And so again, as the framework evolves, all these solutions that Uniting for Action is proposing simply becomes a solution competing against other solutions, essentially. And then the whole framework itself is a solution that's constantly evolving into the best version of itself, right? And maybe doesn't even look anything like what we're talking about now in the end. But we're helping start the conversation in all of these different channels because we're the first one showing up with a particular solution in these different channels. And at some point, we actually have to define what these channels are that we're proposing this solution into. It's a little bit backwards, but you know, we've got this whole kind of framework now. How do we break it down into different channels so different types of people have different conversations, right? So algorithm specialists have conversations about the algorithms that need to be dealt with, and psychologists and sociologists talk about, you know, the reward system and incentive system and how that needs to be incorporated. And there's all these different conversations for how different aspects of the system get implemented and different solutions get developed. Does everybody get that whole idea? Okay, so again, we are solutions developers, and not only the collective solutions framework, but the whole idea of nano actions, the experts for action system, the information for action system. Every one of these different things are different solutions that we're offering, you know, to be able to address different situations, different shortcomings in our society, and then we're kind of weaving them all together into this grand solution, right? So that's how we're being solution developers as an organization, and then we're also being a membership organization like we talked about, where as we're putting all of this out there, we're saying, hey, everybody that likes the idea of developing collective strategic solutions, everybody that understands that in order for us to scale to, you know, to address our issues in society, as long as, you know, it's really that you know, that metaphor that I use where if we have 1,000 organizations that are all capable of building just a 1 or 2 story building, you know, we can go on for hundreds of years like that and never get to scale. You know, it's only when those 1,000 organizations pool their collective resources that we even have the possibility of building a 1,000-story building, right? So it's really that whole concept, and people that get that concept and want to participate in that concept. And again, like we've talked about, it's going to be a snowball effect, and there's going to be absolutely foundations and nonprofits and influencers and all kinds of entities that are really going to get it. Again, it doesn't have to be a very big percentage. So when you're talking about thousands of nonprofits, you know, thousands of corporations, thousands of whatever, there's plenty to start with within that pool, right? So that's the seed. Those are the seeds of the membership organization, and you're seeing the leadership council leading that whole thing. And that's the purpose of the leadership council in many ways, is for them to be the leaders into the world, right? They're touting what we're doing. They're connecting us with the resources that we're looking for. Just to share this quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it's an important concept that keeps coming up over and over again. Any questions or comments before I share this part? Let me just take a quick drink here. a lot of what we're doing, it's come to me recently, kind of a new understanding of it, because we've talked a little bit about it in here, not a lot. I think we're going to start to talk more about is the implementation of the law of attraction, because I've really been engineering the way to really put it in the physical world for really everybody to understand it and for it to be working in our behalf, which is that we're being very clear about what's getting created, right? Everything I'm showing you, the framework, the different, all the details, all of that. And all of that is being created in just words, right? I mean, we're obviously building out certain parts of it, but we're sharing it in words and language clear enough for people like Kat to really get it and really be excited about it coming into reality. People like Rico to really, you know, have it align with something he's really interested in the world. There's all these people that are holding some certain energy, just like we're holding a certain energy for that. And when we start to project out in the world and share here and share there and put videos out here and put social media out there, what we're doing is we're sending out the vibration that we're holding around this solution. We're putting it out through all these different mechanisms. And as we connect with people like Rico and Kat, and they start to propagate it out and send it out, they're opening up channels for us. Everybody's opening up channels for us. And it's through those channels that then, you know, our vibration essentially flows out into the world, our vibrational solution. It's an energy of the solution. And then it finds those that resonate with it, those that say, oh yeah, that's what I've been looking, oh my God, I finally, you know, there's something that will do this, you know, that sort of thing, that realization that it's in alignment with something that they've been feeling before. You understand that? That's how people feel it in an energetic way like that, right? And then it comes back through that channel, right? It comes back through Kat, through Satya, through, you know, back to the organization. So it's a vibration that goes out through these channels. It hits something that resonates with the vibration. They say, oh, I'm interested, I want to connect. And then they come back through the channel. And then now we have our own direct connection, and then we're able to create with them. And then that spreads out from there. So it's really like a physical implementation of the law of attraction, essentially, where you clearly just say what you want, you put it out into the world, somebody that resonates with it hears, they come back, and now you create. So that's the physical process. And so again, what we're doing right now, I'll dive back in. What we're doing right now is we're putting all that out into the world to have the members show up, to be able to build out this collective pool of resources that continually keeps expanding, and then it gives more and more entities finding each other around these channels, right? So any questions about that before I continue into more of the details? Okay, so what teams do we need to have is really one question that we have to answer within what I just described. We'll kind of, you know, we're going to go into some more details. I have several different, you know, pages to show you, one for each team. So, but we really have to look at, do all of our existing teams fit exactly what we need? And then are there new teams that we need to have? Like, for example, like a strategies and solutions team or something like that, right? Because when we look at the framework, you know, do our existing teams really hone in on what needs to be developed around here? Or do we really need to have like a team that's devoted to strategy and solutions and that sort of thing? So that's one, you know, real question. You know, what are these teams going to do? I'm sharing with you all of the, you know, questions that were going through my head as I try to answer all these things. What roles do we need to offer and do we need to fill as an organization? You know, maybe different than the teams, like, you know, human resources role and project management roles and those sorts of things, right? So what kinds of roles do we need to fill? And then, you know, this is where I just started to go deeper into what appears on each of these. So The team pages is what we were looking at before, right? So what are going to go on each team page? We already talked about. What's going to go on each student page? We talked about that a little bit already as well. But now also, and we won't get into details tonight, but what's going to go on each member page, each individual that's showing up to be a part of this collective, what goes on their page, what goes on the leadership council member pages. And just within the next couple of days, I'm going to be developing prototypes of some of the leadership council member pages with some of the leadership council members. So we're going to be getting into specifics like of the projects that they want to work on and the channels that they're interested in and what all of that's going to look like on their page as a way for them to find and connect with the other entities that they want to connect with within this collective, right? So then also what's going to go on the issue pages, like the channel pages, what's going to go on solutions pages. So this is, I haven't thought about it that far, but I thought about it enough today. So you've got a channel, then you've got different entities coming up with different solutions. So a solution page should probably be like a standard template page, right? That each solution fits in within a standard solution page, right? And then a solution gets broken down into projects, right? So we should probably have like standard project pages, right? And then the projects get broken down into actions, right? So we should probably have like standard action pages, and then standard nano action pages, and then standard like protocol pages, right? So there's all these different types of standards or templates that we need to have at all of these different levels, at some point in order for all of this to be standardized and systematized. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, so, these are the 3 dimensions of work that I had mentioned before. So people that are working on their own project and are utilizing the framework, and then they're going to have, this is an example with recruitment, and we'll get into recruitment in a moment. So somebody that's working on their own project, utilizing the framework, is going to likely perform recruitment for their own issues, solutions, or projects, right? So it's kind of, I'm playing with the idea of stretching the idea of recruitment. Recruitment at the moment refers just for us recruiting people, and in particular, up to this point, mostly students, particularly students, to be a part of the teams, right? But again, imagine that these different people, entities that are working on their own projects, that are working in these different channels, issue areas, they're going to have, a desire for recruitment, right? To recruit stakeholders and recruit sponsors and recruit all the different pieces to be able to come together to create a solution with, right? At whatever level. So there's that part of it. So we're also supporting users of the system to do their own recruitment. So these are the 3 dimensions of work for recruitment. So people can be doing their own projects. They can be performing recruitment for themselves. Then also, again, if they're on the team as a student, then they can support users of the system to do their own recruitment. So again, let's imagine, and I'm not sure about this yet, this is why we're talking about that, but imagine that the recruitment team, Uniting for Action recruitment team, is not only recruiting people for Uniting for Action's project, but they're also providing support to others that are recruiting people for their own projects. Does that make sense? So again, it's kind of like we're systematizing recruitment, and we're developing best practices for recruitment. And then as we do that for the world, then we also implement those best practices for Uniting for Action as well, right? And so that's the third part of it, right? Is the supporting Uniting for Action with its recruitment to implement its solutions. So this, again, imagine an intern next semester that's on the recruitment team that is performing recruitment functions for their own project that they're using the system for, right? The framework for, that they're a user of the system for, that they're supporting others that are using the framework that are doing recruitment by providing recruitment tools, best practices, guidance, documents, videos, video templates, all the different things that anyone could want to have a toolbox for in order to do recruitment, right? We're giving them a recruitment toolbox essentially. And then lastly, we're turning that toolbox towards ourselves, and those that are doing the support for others are supporting Uniting for Action similarly, being on Uniting for Action, being a Uniting for Action intern. So any questions about, that? And do you guys understand those 3 levels? And do you guys feel like that's an appropriate way to look at all of this? Do you guys see it any differently than I'm seeing it? That to follow up with the details here, so we're recruiting, Uniting for Action is recruiting for its needs for different solutions that Uniting for Action is putting out there. So first of all, the collective solutions framework, right? That development as a solution, that we're developing that as a solution. And so a lot of our recruitment will be to support, the tweaking of the framework, right? However, we also, like we've talked about, have these specific solutions that we're developing, the Experts for Action platform, the Information for Action platform. These in particular need a lot of programming done, right? So we need to do recruitment of, programmers specifically to program some of our platforms and technologies, right? So even if we're going to be working with, development firms, web development firms that we're hiring, which it seems at some point we're going to have to, just in order to move at, speed, as we're getting investments of millions and tens of millions of dollars, and we want to turn that into rapid technology development. It's in my head, it seems difficult to rely on, students and that whole kind of organic process that we could do if we were taking like months and years. But, if we get some sponsor that's saying, I'll give you $10 million to develop this ASAP, we're probably going to have to hire a whole bunch of technology companies to develop it quickly, right? So that's where we're heading in terms of scale. But in the meantime, to be able to do the underlying work and develop working prototypes and all of that sort of thing, that's where interns can really be helping us along the way and creating model examples that then get turned over to these development firms that, turn it into a Facebook looking website, or, a TripAdvisor or an Amazon or, that kind of high level development that, we obviously need to hire big types of firms to do that sort of thing. So that's where, again, the recruitment is going to be amongst the different solutions that we're developing. And then we're going to essentially have almost like a, buffet of options for students in terms of the different solutions that they can be supporting with, but also we can essentially tell them that, they can flow, potentially between the different solutions. So just like you guys have had the ability to, switch to a different team if you're interested during the project, that sort of thing, that, different interns can come in and work on different projects and different solutions and potentially flow, once they're within the project, that sort of thing. So you guys seeing like the ways that I'm imagining structuring it, and you see how it's quite a bit different in the structuring for students than it has been to this point, which is why we're kind of going over all of this, because I have it all in my head in the way I'm describing it for you. I want to get all of your guys' reflection and thoughts. And again, not that we're going to figure it out all tonight, but that's where I want to give you guys a week to really, come up with any, different questions or comments or different ways it could be, so that we can really come to, finalization of what this all looks like as a common vision for all of us that we put out into the world as this is the way that it is, right? And so, so in our team meetings, this is what we're going to be doing in each of our team meetings for this week, at least part of them. figure out what's going to appear on each of the team pages, like we talked about, have that conversation with each of our teams, and then also what's going to appear on the student pages for this, based on, in part, on those teams. So I know I've covered just a lot of different pieces because I wanted to give you guys a lot of, just the different context for all of this, of what's been going through my head. So any questions or comments about that before we dive into the team by team part here? Nope. Nope. Okay, let's go into the team. So let's start with the recruitment team since we were talking about that. Okay, so we've already gone over the 3 dimensions of work, so I won't continue that part. And again, I'm still not sure about this. I keep going back and forth whether a recruitment team is specifically only going to be for recruitment for Uniting for Action, and then the outreach team or something like that is going to manage supporting other, users of the system in recruiting, so to speak, for their project. Maybe we call that outreach, when we're supporting them for them to do outreach, and we make a distinction that recruitment is only for us, only to support Uniting for Action. I'm still not sure. We have to talk about it, but it's where I'm trying to see the systemization of it, right? Like if the ways that we're doing it are similar to the ways that others need to do it, then why not us just be a model that then, others can use that same model, right? That sort of thing. And essentially, this is kind of the way that I see recruitment is kind of breaks down to this, as far as I can tell. We need this, whatever this is, we need a programmer, or we need a human resources person, or we need a business major, or we need a video editor, or whatever it is, right? We need this for, this, whatever this is, this solution, this project, this whatever, so it's really just a matter of either us defining we need this for this, or somebody else defining we need this for this. And then this can almost be like this plug and play system. What goes in here, what goes in here, and we start to define all of these different combinations and solutions. So when we need a video editor to edit, let's say a meeting, as to do the processing, like we've talked about, then we've got it very defined, and now we have a whole protocol that becomes, what can be used to recruit for that, right? So essentially, again, let me explain that a little bit better. So if we say we fill this in and we say we need a video processor, and this is like what we've been doing as video processors. We need a video processor for, let's just say, processing meetings, right? Processing meetings. Then as we've been defining, what the protocol for that is in our combined team. So, we've been really getting into what is the protocol for that. Now that once we develop a solid protocol for that, now anybody that needs a video processor for processing meetings anywhere can use our protocol to, define and recruit for their project for video processors for processing meetings. Does that make sense? So again, like every time anybody is answering this, it becomes a data point in our database of how you do this. Like every time somebody does this, they develop a protocol, right? We need this for this is developing a protocol. And then that protocol can be used by others, and then others can perfect it. A number of different data points come together, and you start to get best practices for a protocol around needing video processors for processing meetings, right? So you start to get to more and more data. You start to get to more and more nuances of it. Making sense? Is everybody following this? Okay, great. So let me just redo this real quick. Yeah, so basically what I just described is what is the rest of this here. So essentially, you know, I'm playing here with the idea of what is recruitment, you know, and again, is recruitment more of a systematic and systematized process? And we just have some very specific ways that we're trying to recruit. So this is what we're going to talk about in the recruitment team. And now I'm going to do a similar thing with each of the other teams. So before I move on to the other teams, Cassidy, any questions or comments about what I've shared about, you know, possibly reimagining what recruitment is and coming to some kind of, you know, definition of recruitment for our team? And again, having a conversation about whether recruitment, you know, again, remains exclusive to Uniting for Action as a function, or whether we're supporting others in the recruitment, and all of that will be a part of our team conversation. So any questions or any comments about any of that?
Yeah, no, it sounds great. There's a lot to unpack there. I think we could definitely all talk about that tonight. But it sounds like a really good plan to sort of, like you said, systematize recruitment. And yeah, I'm excited about it.
Cool, cool. Tatiana, since you're here on the recruitment team as well, do you have any comments?
I think I also agree with Cassie. We probably need to talk this out a little more, but I think it's kind of reminding me, like, you know, when we're kind of like, I don't know, I still need to like dive through it more.
I understand. It's a lot to process. I know I'm laying a lot on you guys, and but like I said, I went really deep today because we have to figure all this stuff out. We have to, you know, kind of understand all of this. First of all, I needed to understand all this first of all, make sure that you know, it's understandable by you guys, get agreement around what we all, you know, feel that we can agree around, and then we tell the world this is what it is, right? So, and that's where, again, we, in my mind, we had to kind of you know, potentially reimagine all of this. So let's look at the research team real quick. So here's, you know, another example. So part of what I've honed in on, I think that this is an interesting way to look at it, that the research team are collectors. You know, with the research, you're collecting things. They can be collectors. Here's the 3 levels again. Collectors for their own issue or solution or project. So however users are using the system, that they are collecting articles, they're collecting experts, they're collecting, you know, whatever they're collecting around whatever their issue is. And then also they're collectors for Uniting for Action solutions and projects, right? So for the, you know, for the Experts for Action system, they're helping to collect experts, or I don't even know if that's a good example, but you get the idea. And then they're a developer of systems for collection, organization, and along with production presentation. So again, this is looking at interns, you know, what the interns' roles can be on the research team. So they can be collectors for their own issues, solutions project, that's happening outside of the team, but they're sitting on the research team, and sitting on the research team, they're helping to be collectors for Uniting for Action solutions and projects. You know, so again, like helping connect us, let's say, with potential strategic partners, let's say, as an example, right? So that would be where the research team could be collecting prospective strategic partners in some particular area, or technology providers, right? Like we're going to have like discussion boards or something like that, you know, where we're, so, you know, so they would be, you know, collectors of potential options or solutions as an example. And then developers of systems for collection, organization, and presentation, right? Kind of the best practices around how do we collect and organize and present things, right? And again, best practices supporting all of these other users of the system that are doing all of that, right? That are performing these research functions. So then the researchers, again, can collect issues. The researchers can, we've talked about, building out our whole tree of issues, essentially. So they can be collecting issues and organizing them. Collecting information, which can include articles or research papers, or I'm sure there's other categories. Collecting stakeholders, that could be nonprofits, foundations, corporations, universities, experts, influencers. So again, they could be entering this information just like you guys have done at different times. They could be collecting methodologies, collecting frameworks, collecting solutions, collecting projects, collecting processes, collecting actions. I didn't even put in here, collecting protocols. So you guys see where researchers could be serving as researchers in any of these different ways, right? They could be researching and collecting all kinds of different things, right? This kind of opens up the whole idea of what researchers can be within our framework, right? Way beyond what we've been doing as researchers, essentially, right? You guys see that, and do you guys agree that like actually a researcher's role within what we're doing could be researching like any of this stuff? Okay, great. So, okay, good. So, so this is actually, these are kind of like side notes. This doesn't actually specifically have to do with the research team, but I'll just say it because it helped me think through these things. So collective strategic solutions are made up of a variety of projects. We've already talked about projects need to be managed by individuals or organizations. Projects are made up of actions and nano actions. Nano actions can be defined as objectively as possible so that performance and reliability scores can be given by managers in order to make the whole system as automated as possible based on scores, metrics, and algorithms. So does that make sense to everybody? I know we've kind of talked about that in the past, but this gives us kind of a flow to understand solutions are made up of projects, projects need to be managed, projects are made up of actions and nano actions. Nano actions are essentially things that can be dealt with algorithmically, and so that it can be automated as much as possible. Make sense? Okay, good. So going back to the research part, any questions or comments, Katie, from the research team side of things?
I mean, I definitely can see where we might want to expand a little bit, just in, I don't know, in some areas, but I think in general it encompasses a lot of what we do. So I'm excited to talk to the team about it.
Yeah, part of what we'll do after the meeting tonight is have each of you, share some draft of this. We'll put it into Google Docs and share it out to the teams so that, everybody can kind of, think about it and process it as much as possible in advance of the meeting tomorrow. So it's not all new right in the meeting. So I'd wanted to talk about that a little bit. I apologize. I know I'm going so long into this, but there's just so much here, right? Let me go ahead and continue. Again, all of this is just starting the conversation for the research team, right? This is just what's coming to my mind, but let's see where we go from here. Same with the recruitment team. Okay, so let's dive into the business team real quickly. So the business team, partially coming up with like the business systems, in particular, like the software systems. The business systems might, be more of like our handbook and our different, well, it actually gets into some of these other things like the different software systems like Slack and ClickUp and that sort of thing. getting into different, procedures for different things that we do within the organization, the different policies, the different agreements. These are all the kinds of the different dimensions of the business team. And yeah, basically, so coming up with these things that are needed to develop and implement collective strategic solutions for anyone using the framework, right? So this again is where our business team is not only developing business solutions for Uniting for Action, but our business team is developing like the business solutions essentially that exist within the framework, right? So that anybody utilizing the framework has the ability to, know like that HubSpot is an option for them, right? Or they could use Slack and this is how you use Slack, or, everything that we do becomes a model for others, right? And likewise, everything that everyone else does becomes another data point of best practices of how you utilize business aspects, business systems, software, procedures, policies, agreements to be able to create results in the world, right? You guys get what I'm saying? So again, Uniting for Action simply becomes a user of the system in certain respect, and the business team is helping understand how to do all of these things for anyone using the framework, Uniting for Action being one specific example of, an entity using the framework. So well, what are your thoughts and comments about that, Tatiana, and then anybody afterwards that has any thoughts and comments about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that this really encompasses what I guess the business team itself is doing and how we can like incorporate it with, the different strategies that are going on. But overall, I think it has a great gist of what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into, more specifics and dive into more details. But the thing, as you guys are seeing, as we're going team by team, is the whole like mindset of what we're doing as a team is shifting from what we're doing to support Uniting for Action, which is what we've been, doing as teams, right? We've been, in particular, supporting Uniting for Action and supporting the Vaccine Considerations Project. We've been all, involved in like, how do we make the Vaccine Considerations Project work, and now Uniting for Action work. And now we're evolving into an organization that's supporting all users of the system in order to be able to be supported by these teams, right? These teams essentially are supporting all users of the system by being the experts in this realm of providing this service, essentially, whether it's recruitment or whether it's research or whether it's business. These are all kinds of like services that are being provided through the framework, essentially, right? You guys see what I'm saying? And so we're like being the central core of collecting and understanding best practices across the framework by being kind of tuned in and tapped in and observing everyone using the framework. That centrally we're developing best practices for use of the framework in each of these areas, in the realm of recruitment, in the realm of research, in the realm of business, so that all users of the system can then be using these best practices and policies and agreements and procedures and all that. Make sense to everybody? Okay, great. You guys feel good about this? This is exciting, isn't it? As kind of a whole way to scale out what we're doing from just supporting one, entity to like supporting the world and like, having best practices around all of these things all the time. It's really amazing, right? Like what the world that we're creating for everybody, the scalability of what we're creating. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so let me go through the other ones really quickly. Let's go into outreach team really quickly. So outreach focused on the strategy of outreach, okay? And what I'm defining it as for the moment, and we'll talk about this in outreach, is using production to present something collected and organized by research. So that's an interesting way of looking at outreach, right? is that in the end, it's going to be production that's going to be producing something that's going to go out into the world. And it's probably going to start with research in terms of collecting whatever it is that we're going to be producing. But the outreach is really kind of focusing on the strategy of like, you know, what do we want to put out in the world? What do we need to get, you know, processing from, how do we strategically leverage what research can do, produce it in a way that creates the outcome that we want, essentially, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So, you know, essentially us conceptualizing what should be shared and with whom and using what mediums. So like, you know, what content is this? You know, what is it that we want to say? Who are we saying it to? What mediums are we using? Like as examples, videos, social media, television, news outlets, university classrooms, like through presentations, etc. So, and then to achieve what outcomes? You know, again, are we trying to inform them? Are we trying to educate them? And when I say we, it's not us, we're creating a model for others to use. So to achieve informing, educating, enrolling in an action, which again, is that recruitment? If we're enrolling someone in action, you know, again, trying to define what recruitment is. So being a part of developing, implementing, supporting a solution, right? So that's essentially like enrolling in the action is being a part of developing, implementing, or supporting a solution. So again, trying to kind of define what all of that is. So this is, again, starting point for the conversation within the outreach team in terms of how we maybe reimagine outreach. So Mariana, what are your thoughts and comments about that?
I think it's a very good starting point, especially when you stated like the combination between the production team and the research team. I think it's very explained, and I'm excited. I think that's going to be really nice to share with the team, and it's going to get us to a great path.
Great, great. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and let's we'll do production, and then we'll do executive team, and that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so production, video production, graphic design, infographic creation, brand development, social media, strategy, content development, video processing. So a lot of this is what was in the job posting, Maria, that you provided. You know, what team, well, actually I kind of answered that for myself. I was asking what team does video processing fall under, but I decided that it falls under the production team. So again, all of this as, you know, best practices for supporting all users of the system, essentially, right? So that's kind of, and again, this is an incomplete list, but that's kind of the way that I'm seeing our conversation within the production team, video production, well, within the production team. So thoughts about that, Maria?
So I'm really excited about how this is being organized, and I think that in the future it will be really great that one person can be in chief of video processing and then another one graphic design and like that. And that will make the project work better and be more efficient with everything. So yeah, I'm really glad.
Great, awesome. Thank you for saying that. That's really great. Oh, actually, the executive team is just that's my agenda for tonight. We don't have a separate one for the executive team. Okay, great. We're still doing what we're doing. We're being the executive team. So, okay, good. So that covers everything and takes us right up to the end of the meeting. And I apologize that we didn't get to go over more stuff in the meeting. Can we pull up the agenda, since I apologize that I haven't even looked at it? Who can bring up the agenda? Oh, and Katie never reminded me to have Cassidy cut in on the minutes. Cassidy, were you taking minutes? Okay, great. That's great. Katie started and we were going to hand it off from Katie to you and you came, but we forgot to confirm that. Okay, great. Okay, so Katie, do you have the agenda there? Or Cassidy, somebody, you want to share it, Katie, and see if there's anything that we can at least talk about, if not spend time on. I want to see what you guys at least wanted to cover. And again, I apologize for dominating so much. I just felt like we had to cover all this. So Leadership Council webpage overview. Okay, great. That was what I had shared. Recap updates, email, job postings, handshake, showcase, team member reviews, handshake. Okay, so I know we could talk about all these things, Cassidy. Is there anything that you feel like we have to talk about right now to let the team know, the rest of the team know?
Maybe just the main thing, just the handshake reviews. If everyone can just remind at your combined team meeting, I just put 12/1 because I thought that was a reasonable date, like the day before the showcase. So if everyone thinks that's a reasonable date, then if you guys could just share that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you for saying that. Hey, Reve, thank you for being here on time. So great to have you here. We're actually still just wrapping up our executive team meeting. You're welcome to stay for this part if you want. But actually, if you are going to stay, can we get your agreement that we can use this video publicly with a thumbs up? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, yeah, we're just wrapping up. We've run over a bit. Okay, yeah, I think that's important, Cassidy, in terms of the reviews on Handshake. So thank you for reminding us of that. Any questions or comments from anybody about that? Everybody clear about the requests there? Okay, and the business team focus on recruitment, change from BCP to UFA on Google Drive. Yeah, that's something that I need to spend some time on. So yeah, we all good. Tatiana, thumbs up. So nothing else we need to cover. Okay. Outreach, production research, scalable action protocols. Katie will make a video for the overall protocol. Anything you want to say about that, Katie? You're on mute, Katie.
Okay, there we go. No, I don't think I have anything additional.
Okay, great. And the other thing down there was, oh, team time tracker. Okay, yeah, so anything you want to say about that?
Just that it's going well and we're working out the kinks, but it's going well.
Okay, good. Mariana, anything else that you guys want to share about the team? Nope. Okay, great. Okay, great. You can stop sharing. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, great. I know we've covered a lot. I know that was a lot to process. Like I said, I spent literally 11 hours straight today from 5 a.m. to pretty much 5 p.m. with just a little break in between to really kind of put all of that together, to really think through it all and dive into those details and just look at everything from every angle to really try to understand this, like I said, sufficiently myself to be able to describe it to you guys. And I know that there's still a lot of details to be figured out, but do all of you feel like we're all on the same page in terms of understanding what we're looking at? We're all kind of looking at the same thing together, and we're all looking at how we can answer these questions to define what each team is. That was the thing, again, I was realizing it's how can we write, how can I ask you to tweak these job descriptions when we haven't even defined what these teams are and what they're going to be doing, right? And that's where I kind of started to realize that each of these teams is essentially going to operate very differently than they have been in the ways that I've just described for you, right? Where now the teams, it seems, need to at least be operating as supporting all users of the system in this realm, in addition to Uniting for Action being a user, right? If we want to, and it's, well, let's just leave it at that. I think that's a good enough way to describe it for the moment. And then I think, the combination of us really, clearly defining what each of these teams are so that we can, this is the thing we're going to talk about obviously in our recruitment team meeting, but I feel like we want to have everything that we want on the website as far as information. So like you saw that I was working on the team pages now. Next, I'm moving to the framework pages, so that we're going to have, a page for each of those sections of the framework, the issues and the experts and the resources and the strategies and the project management and all of that. And so that, when a career services office person, gets an email from us and they say, what is Uniting for Action? What are they doing? That it actually explains it all on the website, right? That we're a solutions provider and here's our main solution. And then here's all these other breakthrough solutions that we're providing. And we're a membership organization and this is what we're doing. And then we're, incorporating all of these interns and this is how they're getting incorporated and this is what they're doing. I want all of that on the website for the career services offices, for the students that are showing up to consider, whether they're going to do an internship with us, for the leadership council members, for the prospective members. It's like, we need to be presenting like all of this to everybody, right? And so it's kind of, processing it all to the point this weekend where, especially as, we've been in this rush to get the job postings out into the world. It's like, what can we be asking people to show up for until we've got all this other stuff figured out, right? It's like, I just kind of realized we're putting the cart before the horse if we're putting out job postings on Handshake right now before we've figured out are we going to have a research team? If we are, what is the research team going to do? Are we going to have a recruitment team? If we are, what is the recruitment team going to do? Where do project managers fit in all of this? Where do website programmers fit in all of this? All of those different things. So we're doing what we need to do now to answer all of these questions so that we can have all of this done. Oh, I apologize that we're 5 minutes over. I'm wrapping up right now, so that we can have all of this defined on the website for the career services offices, for the job postings. I would like, ideally, for us to have our new postings on Handshake and our emails out to the career services offices and all of that next Monday or Tuesday at the latest, if we can. I mean, really as soon as possible. I know, we only have like until tomorrow before we have this break, but I'm just sharing with you guys, Cassidy knows, Tatiana, you all know that we need to have, our new students in here as quickly as possible. But I think that you guys are also seeing that because of the way that we're putting everything together and we're being so thorough and explaining all of this, and it's also compelling in the way that we're putting it all together, that our recruitment is going to be totally different too, right? That the career services office's interest in our project is going to be totally different because it's all going to be right there that they can send students to, right? It's not that we have to have a sit down with a student or for them to understand what we are as a project, right? That we are going to be presenting everything right there front and center for people. People will be able to choose in or out just by seeing our whole website full of all of our awesomeness, right? So that's where we are right now, is like, we're going to spend the next week, in particular me on the website putting all the content, but with your guidance and figuring out, what our new team descriptions are going to be and all of that, that will get it all put together. And by next week, we can go full force with our recruitment, with our, recruitment of leadership council members, even potentially starting to have membership pretty soon here, all of that. So I think that's enough to wrap it all up. Any questions, comments? Everybody clear on all of that? Everybody feel good about all of that? You guys feel like this is pretty, like I said, pretty monumental for where we've been as a project and where we're going as a project, right? This is like the moment that we're scaling up really significantly, right? From what we've been doing as an organization, doing our best to kind of do all of this, to creating this whole open source project that we're just supporting the open source nature of all of this for the whole world and everyone being users of the whole system, right? Pretty exciting, right? Let's have some claps for the roles that all of us have played, each one of you, everyone on the team, in getting us to this point, helping us evolve to this level, doing so awesome with the Vaccine Considerations Project that we can leap now, like we've always talked about, that it would be the model that would allow us to scale into all of these other areas. And now here we are. So great job, team. You're amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys. You're awesome. Have a great night. See you later. Recruitment team will stay, but thank you guys. Have a great night. See you guys.